You know, when you're looking at a digital map on your phone and a city name is suddenly rendered in this massive, bold font,
Oh, yeah, totally.
right? You see that huge text and you immediately assume it has to be this sprawling, booming metropolis. You just naturally expect, I don't know, skyscrapers, millions of people, a massive local economy.
Because you equate the physical size of the label with the size of the destination.
Exactly. But then you actually zoom in on that map or you physically drive through that specific town and you realize it's not a metropolis at all.
Right, it's just a crucial highway junction.
Yeah, I might only have like a few gas stations, a diner, maybe a motel. But the font size on the map was generated based entirely on its strategic location, not its actual economic footprint.
It's the classic difference between a final destination and a vital intersection.
Yes, and that distinction, that gap between how big something looks on the geopolitical map versus what is actually happening on the ground domestically, well, that is exactly what we're getting into today. So welcome to today's deep dive.
It's a great topic.
It really is. Today on the desk, we just have this one singular document, Azerbaijan Professional Article.pdf. And our mission today is to use it to untangle this fascinating geopolitical mystery that's playing out in real time.
Yeah, it's happening right now.
We are looking at Azerbaijan, a country that is absolutely dominating international headlines. I mean, if you read foreign policy briefings or financial commentary, its visibility is just skyrocketing.
It is everywhere. You
Yeah.
really cannot have a serious conversation about Eurasian energy security or global supply chains right now without bringing up Azerbaijan.
Right. But despite all that massive attention, and despite the fact that it sits at the absolute center of these current geopolitical shifts, it isn't actually experiencing a massive domestic economic boom.
Which is so surprising to a lot of people.
Right. So we're going to figure out why, and more importantly, what that teaches you about how global power actually functions in the modern era.
The contrast here is incredibly sharp. Because on one hand, you have Azerbaijan's, undeniably rising strategic importance on the world stage. But on the other hand, you have this surprising lack of rapid economic acceleration at home. The two things are completely decoupled.
Which feels so counterintuitive. I mean, if you see a country's name popping up constantly in the Wall Street Journal or the Financial Times, you naturally assume its economy must be overheating in a good way.
Yeah, you picture like new factories humming, wages going up.
Local businesses expanding, and the domestic market just catching fire.
It is a logical assumption, but it's entirely incorrect in this case. What we're looking at is essentially a visibility growth paradox.
A visibility growth paradox. I like that.
Yeah, because the reality on the ground in Azerbaijan, according to the source, is that broad economic growth is really only moderate right now. In fact, if you look at the traditional indicators that economists use to measure the health of a transitioning economy, well, some are actively cooling down.
Really? Like what?
Trade volumes, for one. The actual physical goods being bought and sold by domestic businesses, those have softened.
Wow. And what about remittances? Because usually, I mean, when a developing economy is trying to leap forward, you see a huge influx of remittances, right? Like money being sent back home by citizens working abroad.
Right, but remittance growth has been notably limited as well. So the traditional engines of a booming, diversified economy are just kind of quietly idling. It's
Yeah.
not a recession, right? But it is certainly not the explosive growth you would expect given the country's outsized presence in the global news.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because to me, this sounds exactly like a certain kind of tech startup. We've all seen them, right?
Oh, definitely.
They're constantly trending in the news. The CEO is on every magazine cover, and every venture capitalist is talking about their quote-unquote strategic value within the tech ecosystem.
Right, all the buzzwords.
Exactly. But then you actually look at their quarterly revenue sheets, and the underlying growth is surprisingly flat. They have all the hype, all the visibility, but the traditional metrics of success just aren't there.
That's a really good way to put it. The hype outpaces the local revenue generation. And this raises an important question. How exactly can a nation command so much intense international attention and genuinely hold so much geopolitical leverage without the traditional economic indicators to back it up?
Right. If they aren't, producing mountains of new goods for export and their traditional trade volumes are softening, why is the international community paying so much attention to them?
To answer that, we have to fundamentally pivot how we measure economic activity. We have to stop looking at what the country is producing locally and start looking at what is moving through it internationally.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, if the traditional economic dashboard, the one measuring physical trade and remittances, if that one is blinking yellow, we need to look at the financial dashboard.
And what's that one doing?
Right now, Azerbaijan's financial dashboard is flashing bright neon green.
Wow. So the narrative moves entirely away from like domestic manufacturing or local retail and just shifts over to international financial flows.
Exactly. We are seeing massive surges in very specific areas. Banking activity, payment system usage, and overall transaction volumes.
Okay.
Capital is moving through Azerbaijan at a pace that is vastly faster than what those moderate domestic economic indicators would ever imply.
That's wild.
Yeah, the sheer volume of money moving through the banking system is completely detached from the slow growth of the local economy.
Okay, wait, I need you to break down the mechanics of that for me because, I mean, if billions of dollars or massive amounts of international capital are suddenly flying through a country's banks and payment systems, shouldn't some of that wealth naturally, like, stick to the local economy?
You'd think so, right?
Yeah. Don't the banks need to hire thousands of local people to manage all this new money? Doesn't the infrastructure required to move those billions create a domestic boom?
Well, you're thinking of traditional retail banking, where money comes in, sits in a vault, and gets loaned out to a local bakery or a construction firm.
Right, yeah.
But what is happening here is international corporate clearing and transit. In the digital age, capital is nearly frictionless.
Oh, right. It's just data.
Exactly. When a multinational corporation routes a massive cross-border payment through an Azerbaijani financial institution, it does not require a new physical bank branch to be built in Baku. It doesn't require hiring local tellers.
So it is just digital ledger adjustments.
It is entirely digital. It requires non-resident corporate accounts, international clearinghouse access, and automated currency exchange routing. The money enters the digital jurisdiction of the country, is processed by the banking infrastructure, and immediately exits to its final destination.
In, like, an instant.
Right. It is a B2B transaction that happens in milliseconds.
Wow. So think about it like a massive state-of-the-art fiber optic cable running right through the middle of a small town.
That's a great analogy.
Right. There are terabytes of incredibly valuable data, billions of dollars worth of financial transactions, corporate secrets, global communications, just zooming through that cable every single second. But the physical cable itself doesn't get any wider.
Exactly.
The town it runs through doesn't suddenly become a booming tech hub just because the cable happens to be buried under Main Street. The value is in the transit, not the location.
That is exactly what is happening. Transaction velocity does not automatically equal domestic wealth creation. What this surge in digital banking and payment system usage signifies is that Azerbaijan is functioning as a financial conduit.
It's the pipe.
It is the pipe. It is not the economic endpoint where the money stops, gets invested, and builds local industries. It's just the channel through which the money travels to get somewhere else.
Which brings up the most obvious mechanical question. I mean, why? If I'm a global financial institution or a major shipping conglomerate, why is my money suddenly routing through this specific digital fiber optic cable? Like, why is Azerbaijan the chosen conduit right now?
Well, financial routes almost always follow physical trade routes. Finance is really just the shadow cast by physical logistics.
That makes sense.
So if you want to know why the money is moving through Azerbaijan, you have to look at how the cargo ships and freight trains are moving. And when we look at the physical geography, we had the most vital geopolitical concept driving this entire phenomenon.
Which is?
The middle corridor.
The middle corridor. You hear this term constantly now when people talk about the future of global supply chains.
You do. The middle corridor, which is also known as the Trans-Caspian International Transport Route, is this emerging physical trade route connecting Asia and Europe. But its defining feature, like the entire reason it has become so critical practically overnight, is that it is specifically designed to bypass Russia.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because for decades, if you wanted to move goods overland from manufacturing hubs in China to consumer markets in Europe, the easiest, most established path was the Northern Corridor.
Right.
You just put it on a train, send it straight through the massive landmass of Russia, and it popped out in Eastern Europe.
It was reliable, it was heavily invested in, and it was just the default. But due to recent geopolitical conflicts, massive sanction regimes, and skyrocketing insurance premiums for cargo moving through Russian territory, Global logistics companies had to find a new way.
They had no choice.
Exactly. They had to shift the flow of goods south.
And when you shift that flow south, just a few degrees on the map, you run directly into a massive geographic bottleneck.
Yep. You run into the Caspian Sea. To bypass Russia, goods now leave China, travel through Central Asia, usually Kazakhstan, and hit the eastern shore of the Caspian Sea.
Okay, so they hit water.
Right. From there, they have to be loaded onto ships, ferried across the water, and unloaded on the western shore. And the country sitting squarely on that western shore, controlling the crucial ports and the onward rail links into Georgia, Turkey, and eventually Europe, is Azerbaijan.
Wow. So simply by redrawing that line on the map to avoid a sanctioned global power, Azerbaijan's strategic value is instantly elevated.
Instantly.
It doesn't matter what they are manufacturing locally.
Yeah.
It matters that they control the physical real estate required to make this new global supply chain function.
It is a phenomenal geographic advantage.
Yeah.
And it isn't just physical consumer goods either. We're talking about critical energy transit as well.
Oh, right, of course.
Europe is aggressively trying to diversify its energy sources away from Russian pipelines. And where are they looking? They're looking to the Caspian Basin and Central Asia.
Right.
And to get that energy to Europe without crossing Russia or Iran, the pipelines have to go through Azerbaijan. It has become a critical intersection for global energy security.
Which perfectly explains the visibility growth paradox we started with.
Exactly.
As the middle corridor gains prominence and the energy pipelines become vital to European stability, Azerbaijan's strategic value rises exponentially. The international community doesn't care if local retail sales in Azerbaijan are softening,
No, not at all.
They only care that the port of Baku is operational, the trains are running on time, and the banks are successfully clearing the cross-border transactions required to facilitate all this movement.
Azerbaijan is providing the essential infrastructure for other nations' economies to function under new geopolitical realities. They are the toll booth on the only viable highway.
Okay, so if you are the government of Azerbaijan and you find yourself sitting on this geopolitical gold mine, I mean, you are this vital intersection for global trade, energy, and finance. What does the future actually look like?
That's the big question.
Right. Can you turn this massive transit boom into a holistic, diversified economic transformation for your everyday citizens? Or are you forever destined to just be the fiber optic cable?
Well, to understand their trajectory, it helps to look at international comparisons. When people hear that a country in this region is becoming a massive transit and financial hub, the immediate assumption is usually the UAE model.
Right. Yeah, everyone pictures Dubai. Like, the idea of taking a strategic location and leveraging it to build a gleaming, heavily diversified global metropolis.
Exactly.
You build free trade zones, you become a tourism hub, a tech incubator, and you completely decouple your economy from just moving cargo or pumping oil.
Right. That is the ultimate aspiration for many transitioning economies, but that is not the model Azerbaijan is currently tracking toward, according to the document.
Really?
Yeah, based on structural realities, Azerbaijan is operating much closer to the Kazakhstan model.
The Kazakhstan model. Walk me through the mechanics of that. How does that differ from the Dubai dream?
Well, in the Kazakhstan model, a country's strategic relevance, its importance on the international geopolitical chessboard, grows much faster than its actual domestic economic output.
All right.
You become incredibly important to foreign capitals, but your internal economy doesn't undergo a magical, rapid diversification. The wealth remains concentrated in the transit and export sectors, while the broader everyday economy kind of lags behind.
But why does that happen? If billions of dollars of trade are flowing through their ports and their banks are clearing all these transactions, why can't they naturally leverage that into building a diversified tech or manufacturing sector?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we hit a massive structural roadblock. Both Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan are heavily dependent on oil and gas exports.
Okay.
And when a country is deeply reliant on fossil fuels, it creates a phenomenon often referred to as the resource curse, or Dutch disease.
Okay, wait. Break down how that mechanism actually works in this context, because people hear resource curse and they assume it just means, like, corruption. But it is actually a deeply mathematical economic problem, right?
It is entirely structural. When an economy is built around exporting massive amounts of oil and gas, foreign currency floods into the country to pay for those resources.
Right.
And this artificially inflates the value of the local currency.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and when your currency is that strong, it makes exporting anything else like manufactured goods, software, or agricultural products, it makes it prohibitively expensive for foreign buyers. Your non-oil industries simply cannot compete on the global market.
Wow, so it crowds out all the other potential industries.
It really does. And on top of that, the oil and gas sector absorbs all the investment capital and the top tier talent. The entire economic incentive structure is built around pulling resources out of the ground, not building a complex, service-oriented economy.
So it acts as a ceiling. Even if they are making an effort to diversify, which I'm sure they are, that overwhelming reliance on hydrocarbon revenues makes it incredibly difficult to pivot.
It creates profound structural rigidity. You cannot simply take a workforce and an infrastructure grid designed for heavy fossil fuel extraction and just easily pivot them into managing a diversified, high-tech global logistics and service hub.
Yeah, that doesn't just happen overnight.
No, the skills are different, the capital allocation is different, and the regulatory environment required is completely different.
Which perfectly closes the loop on our mystery today. I mean, the banking sector is booming because it's handling international transit. The physical shipping corridors are busy because global trade is actively bypassing Russia.
Right.
But the everyday domestic economy, the local manufacturing, the small businesses, the things that rely on traditional trade, they remain tethered to the price of oil and constrained by that structural rigidity.
Exactly.
The international financial flows are massive, but they're completely compartmentalized. They flow through the conduit and out the other side, just completely bypassing the roadblocks of the local economy.
Azerbaijan is successfully capturing the transit value, right?
Yeah.
But converting transit value into holistic domestic prosperity is an entirely different and much more difficult economic challenge.
So what does this all mean when we zoom out and look at the visibility paradox? The surge in digital financial pipelines, the reality of the middle corridor, and the structural ceiling of being a petrostate. How should this change the way you look at the world map?
Well, I think it demands that we update our mental models for how we evaluate a country's power and importance. Azerbaijan's future is not being defined by how much it produces internally, but entirely by its role as a critical node in larger international systems of trade and geopolitics.
So the next time you see a headline about a quote-unquote booming new trade hub, or you see a country suddenly dominating the financial news cycle, take a closer look.
Yeah, look past the bold font.
Exactly. Check if they are actually experiencing a broad economic boom or if they have just become a really busy, highly strategic toll booth. Being an incredibly important intersection on the global map is a massive geopolitical advantage, but it is not the same thing as being a booming, diversified metropolis.
And that reality leaves us with a truly provocative thought to consider regarding the future of international relations.
Yeah.
If a country's security, leverage, and international power are increasingly defined by simply being a vital conduit for others, if holding the keys to the transit route provides more geopolitical armor than manufacturing the goods themselves, we might need to completely rethink our baseline definition of what makes a nation wealthy and secure in the 21st century.
Is true wealth what you physically build and hold within your own borders? Or is it the leverage you possess over the essential traffic passing through?
It's a huge shift.
It fundamentally changes how you look at geography.
Yeah.
Suddenly, that bold font on the digital map doesn't mean a big city. It means they hold the keys to the highway. And right now, everyone desperately needs to use that road.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the headlines, look closely at the mechanics behind the map, and we will see you next time.